So those were some general strategies about engaged scholarship, and these are more specific. So if you're working on a written piece of scholarship, this is just sort of like an amalgam of bunches of people's different advice, which I think is all awesome. And so, the person who said, resolve to write one lousy page a day, told me, if I write one lousy page a day, then I have written 365 lousy pages in a year, and that is a lousy book. But I can edit it once I have it down. And so again, I just throw these out there that if you are working on something written, I think these are great strategies to use. I also really like the one about blocking out time and treating that time with as much reverence as you would a meeting with the chancellor if you're at a university, or with the CEO or COO of your organization if you're a community partner. If you do endeavor to write stuff, this book is a must-read. It's fabulous. It's called Air and Light in Time and Space, and Helen Sword interviews, I think, 100 prolific writers across a bunch of different disciplines, and based on all of those interviews, she backs out what she calls the base model and says that part of writing is behavioral, in terms of sitting down, for example, and treating that time with as much reference as you would a meeting with the chancellor. Part of it is artisanal. Again, it's that for those of us that have a hard time letting go of something and bringing it out the door, it's like you can always change a word or a sentence. It's a piece of art. That there can be a social component to it in terms of collaboration, like we do in community engagement, and there's also an emotional chunk of it. And so this is absolutely not you should do A, B, and C. It's here's what a bunch of people do, and we invite you to think about these and choose things that work for you. So I think it's a fantastic book, and I highly recommend it. Another thing that you can do specifically is again, synergize. So the whole idea of synergism is 1 + 1 = 3. So if a university and a community get together, that what they have is not just two entities. There's more because they've built something together. So again, I strongly encourage you, if you do written scholarship or whatever product of scholarship it is, work together and co-author that. I know for me last year, the whole second part of my year was pretty busy with, of all things, a patent application that I had a group of students work with a number of teachers at the Louisiana School for the Visually Impaired. And we created together a 3D tactile map that would go at the entrance of a playground so that a child who is visually impaired or blind could essentially feel the top view of that playground and where everything was laid out and what equipment was on it before they ever set foot on it. And if you think about that concept, I think to try to get something like that at the entry to any playground so that a child who's visually impaired or blind would not be dependent on a caregiver to tell them where things are, would not have to bump into anything, that they would know. We thought that was a great idea that we came up with and developed together. And so we're all co-inventors on a patent application. So again, it is amazing what happens when you work together on something like that. So this is a framework that some colleagues and I developed and published recently, and I think Dave had sent out the paper that goes with this little graphic, where if you take a look at a written piece of work in terms of the publication process, if somebody initiates that process or decides, okay, hey, let's write a paper, and then you draft the paper coming down that first column, and then you finalize that draft, and eventually you submit it and try to publish it, you've then got a degree of collaboration sort of across your top row there. So co-attribution is essentially something where, although you both might talk